With a revolution in this country now for more than 30 years, and with revolutionaries intent on disrupting this country, on creating as much havoc as they can, why in the world would you meet with them?
Because I think it was the first time to really see if they have the will to do peace in this country. It was the first time in the history of this country, as you said, more than 40 years we've been dealing with the guerrillas, even with Tiro Fijo. He was one of the leaders when all this guerrilla movement started more than 30 years ago. And I think for the first time, we want to see if they have the will to do the peace. 4 years ago, the FARC is the largest guerrilla group in this country. They proposed 10 points to sit in the table of negotiation. And really, in the last 4 years, nothing happened. They never established a contact with the government. They never want to talk with the last government. So that's why in my campaign I said, the first thing I will do if I'm elected president of Colombia is to sit with the FARC.
But they don't
to see if they're willing to do peace in this country.
But they really don't want to negotiate in good faith with you, do they? They want to drive you out.
No, really, look. If we start analyzing the conversation with them, they risk a lot to see the president. I risk a lot going to the middle of the jungle. But they also risk a lot, because for the first time in the history of this country, they never asked demilitarization of any zone. They didn't ask for guarantees to see the president. And for the first time, they sit at the table. And what is more important, Charles, in the next 90 days, after my inauguration, starting the 7th of August, they will sit in the table of negotiation. I don't know what's going to happen, but at least they will sit on the table of negotiation.
What happened in that meeting that gave you any confidence that progress can be made here?
First, the meeting. I think I said to you before, the risk they had to go into that meeting. Second, it was a very frank and very open conversation without any conditions. We talk about what they were proposing in their 10 points they gave to the government 4 years ago. Those points basically is infrastructure, invest in the safety net of this country, education, housing, health, recreation. We talk about for the first time, the last point of these 10 points that they want to negotiate. It's one that for me is very important and for the world, that is the eradication of the illicit crops. We all know in this world that the FARC and the guerrilla movements in this country, they're acting in the zones where all these illicit crops are grown, coca or poppy fields. And for the first time, they are decided to eradicate these illicit crops.
Don't you feel a bit strange talking to rebels when you yourself were a captive at one point, were you not?
Yeah, but I was captured by drug lords, not by guerrillas. Completely different. It was a completely different scenario.
But they hold a lot of people, don't they?
They hold a lot of people.
Did that come up when you talked to them?
It was the first thing. Really, the first thing I talked to the guerrilla was, okay, what's going to happen with the people that you have kidnapped? As you know, they don't only have civilians, but they have, at this moment, more than 400 policemen and soldiers of this country. And the first thing I asked to them really was, what are we going to do with kidnapping? How are we going to really to end this that I think is the worst crime that you can commit in the human being? I suffer myself directly, the kidnapping. And definitely that's the worst crime you could commit in the human being. You lose the two most precious thing of your life. You lose your liberty and you lose your family. And that's why I think we should put all the efforts. Even at that time, I remember the same day I was meeting with the guerrilla leaders. The families of the 3 missionaries of the U.S. came to talk with me. The vice president had a conversation with them the same day. It was really something that it was not planned, but the same day the families came down to Colombia. I went to the middle of the jungle, and I even asked them, I said, look, if we really are going to get into a peace process, what's going to happen, for example, with these 3 missionaries Their families don't know what's happening with them. They're suffering. They don't know if the missionaries are alive or if they are dead. Please give me some information, because I think that's a good signal you could send to the world, saying, look, we are really in the will to do peace in this country. I asked for their lives. I said, okay, what happened? Do you have them? They said, no, we don't have them. I said to them, look, there's the information that we have from the US that they were kidnapped by the FARC. They told me, look, what happened is that common delinquency used the name of the FARC to kidnap these 3 US missionaries. We don't have them. We don't know what happened with them. But we are going to put all our efforts to find out what happened to these 3 missionaries. So I said to them, I think that's something that is very important for us. It's very important for Colombia. It's very important for, the first thing, for the families. So I asked the High Commissioner, the Peace High Commissioner, that he went with me to the meeting, and I asked him to be in permanent touch with them and to try to find any information, because really I know how all these families are really suffering, what they're feeling, and I think they need an answer of what happened with their fathers or husbands or families.
A couple of things. When they say they don't have them,
Yes.
do you believe that?
Yes. I think that if they have them, they will tell you, look, we have them and we're not going to release them. They said, we've said several times that we never kidnapped them, but the compromise of them say we are going to try to find out what happened to them.
And I'm not clear exactly who it was they said to you they think took them.
They've said even in press releases that it was common delinquency using their name that kidnapped them. No?
Just thugs.
Yes, that's what they said. But one of the compromises, and even that's one of the instructions I gave to my peace commissioner, is you have to please talk to all the different guerrilla movements, FARC, ELN, to try to find out if it's in the hands of another group or really if it's common delinquency.
But as I understand it, the radio contact that existed through 1993,
Yes.
that it was possible to locate where those radio signals were coming from, and they were coming from territory controlled by FARC.
Could be. Maybe could be some dissidents of the FARC. But really, directly themselves, that's what they told me. Because really, that was the first thing I put on the table. What happened with these 3 missionaries? We are worried about them. The U.S. is worried. The families, the world, everybody's putting around in Colombia. What is happening with them? Do you have them? And they said, no, definitely no. Even, they told me a story that they had another missionaries and they were killed in a combat between the army and the guerrilla.
Right.
Definitely, they told me that. They said, look, some years ago we have a very big fight with the army, and 3 of them were killed. But these 3 that you're talking to me, we don't have them. But our compromise is to try to find out what happened to them.
Mr. President, I know you don't know fully what the operations of the FARC are, but if they wanted to find out, could they not find out?
I think they could find out. I think so.
So this is a good litmus in your mind as to whether they're serious about...
Yes, I think so. And I think they're willing to do that, and that's my perception of what they told me in the jungle.
I'm interested that you say you raised kidnappings right away.
Yes.
I know you were telling me you just were able to liberate somebody
Yes.
you know well today. So much of the financing for rebel groups comes from ransoms.
Yes.
So why in the world would they stop kidnapping? They need that money.
I think that even what happened in the conversation with the other group, with the ELN in Germany, one of the first things they put on the table, or the civil society put on the table of negotiation, was kidnapping. They need money, and how the guerrilla are financed. First, ransoms, and second, they act as the government, putting taxes on the crops of the drug lords. They need the money, but for the first time, I'm looking for a different approach to eradicate guerrillas or to end the guerrilla problem and eradicate crops illicit crops in this country. I think that for the first time we have to deal with a different approach. And that's why we are proposing, and that's what we are dealing and try to tell the world that fighting the guerrillas is, if we have peace in Colombia, is the first battle that we will win over drugs. Because all of us, we know that, as I said before, guerrillas are acting in these areas where you have the cocaine plants or the poppy fields. For the first time, I think there's a different approach, and it's what is called the alternative development. We need to invest in these areas. We need to invest in the safety net. If you go to these areas of Colombia, you don't have roads, you don't have health, housing, or education. So what we are proposing is a plan to create a plan to invest in these areas. Even I propose in my inauguration speech to create a special tax in this country that is the peace tax. And all Colombians are willing to put money to try to create a special fund to develop this special plan in these areas, basically where the drug is cultivated. This is the proposal. I told them, why don't we start with a pilot program to eradicate illicit crops? And what I think is that these people, they really want to go back to the normal life, living in the middle of this jungle 40 years. They know how difficult it is. There's a lot of unemployment in these areas. Sometimes these young people are going to the guerrilla, or the guerrilla asks for their support because they don't have a place to work, they don't have land to cultivate, we don't have industries. So that's why I think that we should develop a complete different approach in these areas and see with pilot programs if they're willing to do that. The multilateral system is willing to give us money. The IDB gave us already $100 million for this project. We hope to raise almost between $700 to $1 billion with what we call the bonus, the peace bonus. Mm-hmm. And I think for the first time, social investment will go to these areas. And I think that they are willing to go into licit, not illicit business, the peasants of this country. And I think that's something that we have to do. For the first time, it's a complete different approach to fight the drugs. We have been fighting drugs with fumigation, only fumigation, with not as good results as the US or Colombia wants. So that's why I think, why don't we try a different approach for the first time?
Let me come back for a moment to the three Americans.
Yes. Number
one, with 1,000 people being kidnapped in this country every year, why would you raise the three Americans?
To them?
To the FARC.
Because I think that for the first time is something that is really putting Colombia in the international scenario. The U.S. is putting a lot of pressure on us, but we are not acting because of the pressure of the government. Really, in my case, I put the three missioners first because I knew that families were coming. Secondly, I want to give an answer back to them. I know the suffering. When you're kidnapped, something that really hurts you is that sometimes you know that you're alive, that you're well cared of, or they're taking bad care of you, but at the end that you know what's happening to you. When you don't know what's happening on the other side, I know the suffering of the families more than 5 years that they haven't heard one news about their families. I know how they feel. And that's why I think when I was kidnapped, Charles, my first worry was to speak to my family. When I spoke to my father, to my mother, to my wife, to my children, I told them, look, I'm alive. After I hang the phone, you feel completely different because you know that you give peace to them. And they knew what's happening to you.
Though the FARC denied to you that they have them,
yes.
Do you believe they're in Colombia?
I don't know. Really, I don't know.
Do you believe, does your gut tell you that they're alive or dead?
It's difficult. After 5 years, without having any news of them, it's difficult to think that they're alive. Even in that area, that's a very difficult area to survive. You know, that's the middle of the rainforest of the world. It's difficult to survive there.
Mr. President, in many hostage situations in the United States, there is immediate recognition that people have been taken. There has been widespread publicity. The hostage takers have known that there would be hell to pay if they killed those hostages. And yet in this case, with these three missionaries, there was not much, if any, publicity in the United States.
Yes.
The government and the mission decided to keep it low-key. Do you think that was right?
No. I think it was something that you have to raise. I don't know why you have to keep it low profile. Even, I could put an example of, can I have a?
Sure,
Luis,
you got me.
me sé que yo. Okay.
Mr. President, I'll start with that again. In most hostage, or in many hostage cases in the United States, there has been immediate publicity, widespread publicity, tremendous public sympathy for the hostages. I think of the case of the Iranian hostages, the American embassy employees, the hostages that were taken in Lebanon. And the hostage takers knew implicitly, if not explicitly, that there would be hell to pay if they killed those hostages. In this case, there was a governmental decision, a decision by the mission not to publicize, to keep it low-key. Do you think that was right?
I don't think so. I never understand, because I think that showing here in Colombia, pointing who were the kidnappers was very important for the government of Colombia and also for the missionaries and for their own mission. Even, for example, at that time, I talked 3 points with the guerrilla leaders. What's going to happen with the Colombians kidnapping, the people they have kidnapped of Colombia? Second, what's going to happen with the foreigners? And I put on the table two cases, the 3 missionaries, and one, also he was a friend of mine, that it's a Palestinian living in Colombia, that his brother is the press secretary of President Arafat, and he was kidnapped at that time. So I said, look, we have 2 international pressure here. The U.S. and even President Arafat sent special envoys to free him. So I think you could give the world 2 signals. Please give us information what is happening with the Americans. We need that information. And please liberate these men, that it's the, as you know, Palestinian and with very good relation with President Arafat. So they said, we're going to find out the information for the Americans. That's our compromise. I said to the High Commissioner, please be in touch with them to see what another information, if they could find different information. And they said, we're going to free the Palestinian, but we ask only one condition. Please send us somebody of the PLO so that we could know how they deal and manage their peace process. And for us could be very important to see and learn about their own experience. And they free him, I think, 1 week later. He was free.
In early
August. 2
August.
weeks, yes.
But they obviously were able to do nothing so far. You have not heard anything
No.
so far back from them about the Americans.
Not yet, not yet.
But you do think the U.S. government made a mistake by not publicizing this or making a bigger case out of this at the beginning?
I don't know why they hide it. I don't know why they hide it. Really, I think it's something that happened, and it's a way of putting also pressure on these groups, saying if you have them or you don't have the missioners, and to learn what happened. And there has been always, or a phone, so what they call here the red phone, with contact with the guerrillas or with the different groups. In the last governments, there have been high commissioners, peace advisors, any kind of, you could put the title that you want, to have relations with the guerrillas. And if they raise the problem, look, 3 Americans were kidnapped, they could have answered immediately with their contacts, with their communications, what happened with them. No? Don't to wait to see after 5 years, okay, what's the problem?
There was some information that appeared in the American press that you had indicated that as guerrillas were captured, you would ask them if they had any information about or knew anything about the 3 Americans. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you done that?
Yes, the High Commission is in touch with them permanently, asking, okay, what's happening with them?
Do you know anything?
But for the moment, we don't have any
Have not
kind
found
of
anything
information. The minute we have any information, it will go directly to the ambassador.
I talked to the 3 wives day before yesterday and said I was going to talk to President Pastrana. Is there anything you'd like me to say? And they said yes, if something happened, if you got information, they would like to meet with you again. Is that?
Whenever they want. I'm open. anything I could do for them, my government, my country, my people, we will do it. I know that how they're suffering. When you suffer yourself, you know what your families, and I know what their feelings they have inside, and anything I could do, anything, my government, my people, we're going to put all the efforts to try to find out what happened, if they're alive or if they're dead.
When you hear something, let them know.
Yes.
Let us know too.
Okay.
Nice to talk to you.
Charles, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Terrific.
Was good?
They're going to ask you just for a couple shots. And we were under a half hour, right?
No, it was okay.
Well, good. Okay. 3 wives a couple of days ago. Asked them, since I said to them I would be talking to President Pastrana, asked them what they would have to say to you. They thanked you for what you had done so far, but said if you got any information, they would like to meet with you again. The card just went by. Let me start again. Mr. President, I talked to the 3 wives just 2 days ago, said I would be talking to you, asked what they would like me to say to you, and they said to thank you, first of all, for what you had done. They were very grateful. And secondly, said that if you got any information, they would like possibly to meet with you again. Would that be all right with you?
Definitely. My first answer to your question is giving all my support, not only as president, the support of my country, of my people, to find out really what happened with the 3 missionaries, with their husbands. We will put all the efforts to really find out what happened, and not only as a president of Colombia, giving all my support, as a human being, someone that has really feel directly the suffering of a kidnap. I'm going to put all the efforts, and my only message is telling them that they have the full support of the President of Colombia.
Well, if you get any information, give it to them, and we hope you'll call us as well.
Immediately.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.